Welcome to Morning Roofs Podcast. We're diving into business, leadership, and life beyond just roofing. I'm Nate Trim. Today we have an incredible guest, my buddy Mike Griffin. He's a real estate investor, construction company owner. He's been doing construction a long time. He's extremely successful in real estate. He has investment properties. He's a true industry leader and a great guy. So I appreciate you coming on, Mike.
Absolutely, Nate.
And today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, leadership, real estate, current market trends, all the things we were just discussing before we even jumped on the podcast. So I appreciate you. I was just thinking about, being in the roofing business, and we first met our first deal. We did 100% pay at close, where we did the roof prior to closing. And
Correct.
Then it was for one of your clients because they really didn't have the financial means to do the roof or pay for the roof ahead of time, but they needed to get the roof done. And so we jumped in with you and we got that client going. And I don't remember the specifics behind the client because it's been a while and we do, however many deals. But I remember it didn't go the way we wanted it to go. The closing fell through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it did.
Remind me, I think it was a funding issue or there was something.
We had the client. According to the lender, we had full approval. We're ready to go. That's why I called you and said, "Hey, we're ready to pull the trigger. We're closing in a week." And unbeknownst to me, I was given false information from the lender, and the buyer actually did not qualify for the loan. And they knew this weeks ahead of time, but that's what I was told.
Yeah.
So anyway, you went ahead and put the roof on there. I stayed in touch with you the whole time. Communication is very important. I'll let you know what's going on. We had another client come in. We got another offer on the house. It took about 45 days to get that one closed, but we did end up closing the property. And I did my best to keep you updated at all times. I would call you and say, "Hey, here's where we are in the process." And but anyway, we made the deal work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't just close mouth and disappear on you.
Yeah, and I really, trust me, I genuinely appreciate it. And from that moment, I feel like it was a frustrating moment for you and I, but for me, it was, I understood because I'm a realtor, I'm a real estate investor, right? Being in construction, but also you and I shared all those common themes. So it's like when we were having a conversation, it was relatively easy because even though it wasn't an ideal circumstance, you understood what to communicate to me, what it is. There was no stress. It was just like whenever you get to it, you get to it. But you tapped in and said, "Hey, I remember specifically where we got under contract. This is the circumstances." And I have a situation that happened very similar to that. And what's crazy is we deal with a lot of 100% at close. We understand that because we've dealt with a lot of real estate transactions. And so we kind of specialize, and that's kind of our niche. We do obviously, insurance whenever it's a layup. We really don't focus on insurance like that, but we will do it if somebody says we have an insurance deal, they've been approved, or they have sometimes we'll do an inspection on a roof because they have leaks, and we say, "Hey, listen, this roof is messed up, and it's probably from the last storm. So you may want to potentially looking at the insurance claim." In those scenarios, we'll let the customer run off with it. Maybe we'll give them to a PA. Maybe we'll give them to an attorney. Let them run off with it. But we specialize in real estate transactions because we understand it. But I had a situation happen, and this is probably one of the reasons why with your situation, I understood it because. And you're in real estate long enough, these lenders will tell you whatever you want to hear just to keep the game going.
They will do that.
It's a conflict of interest for them because their client is their client. We are not their client. And so if they tell you the truth, then the potential for you to even sell them the house in the first place instead of just pulling out, now they're losing that client, potentially losing that commission or losing the profits from that deal. And then especially bad lenders, because they don't understand. Newer lenders, they're just desperate. They don't understand that you're wasting your time with this particular person who's giving you false information. You're not going to get the deal done. You're dragging everybody else through the mud, including the seller, the agent, the buyer's agent, everyone else. And then at the end of the day, you're wasting your time. So instead of you working on deals that are profitable for you, you're wasting your time. And so we look at the lender, we communicate with the lender when we do 100% pay at close, because you got to think sometimes these roofs for $25,000, we're sticking our necks out.
Absolutely.
And going, and I think our deal wasn't that big. It was only like maybe 12 or 13,000. But regardless of that, what I loved about you was not only did you did work for the client, which I remember specifically.
Yes, I had a bill standing out there through my construction company that we went in and did some work too. So I had skin in the game also.
Exactly.
It wasn't just you.
100%.
And I understand your feeling. I mean, I understand the frustration. You know, one thing we do as a real estate brokerage agent, I go in and I really vet the lender. I ask the right questions, make sure about the underwriting, make sure that the buyer is fully qualified, ready to go, has the funds to be able to do it. And I can only base my information on what they're giving me,
100%.
you know. And I'll be honest with you, most of my deals that did not close, but ended up falling through and having to bring another buyer in was because of lender related issues.
Yeah, and that seems to be the general consensus.
Yeah.
When we have a outstanding AR, right, and it's been there for 4 months, it's almost always because there's a lender issue.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're just transparent, like we're more than willing to help and deal with any way we can. What happens is when we have issues with buyers or sellers on one side or the other, where they're just lying or fabricating or making up things because they don't want to be called out for their mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Just be honest. Like, if you're just honest with me, you were so transparent from the beginning. That's why we've now done, I don't know, 5 or 6 roofs for you since that time. We had communicated great. Everything worked out fine. But I remember you had outstanding. This is what I loved about you the most, is that you had an outstanding bill. There was a $10,000 escrow, if I'm not mistaken, that was on, because you were smart enough to know that this deal doesn't look that great. Right. We need to have a high escrow on this deal. And then you got your escrow rightfully. You were rewarded the escrow for all the time and effort you guys put in and wasted time and effort from this buyer. And then you allocated that money to us and got us paid on that deal instead of yourself. You kept the outstanding balance, paid us to get us out the way, which I genuinely appreciated.
Yes.
And then, so that was amazing. First of all, like, that part of it was, he understands, he gets it. And it wasn't a very super profitable deal for us, but it was a great transaction for the first one to move into the next one. We worked well together. So I love that. So tell me a little bit about your construction background, because I know you were in construction for a while, then you decided to get into real estate. I know you do real estate investing as well, but how did you get into construction? What was that like?
Back in 2000, my brother and I, we were in the parts business. That's what we grew up in, auto parts business. And it was time to do something different. So we were, at the time, I was flipping homes, not in volume, but we were doing a little bit of flip here and there. And so we got out to do our own flips, is what we were doing. And my brother went and got his real estate license so we could pull permits, be legal on everything. And next thing I know, we have investors coming to us wanting us to build brand new homes for them. And so that's how we kind of transitioned into being a realistically a construction company. Sure. is doing that. And we did that up to the end of the boom, when it bust in 08. We got out of that. And that's when I jumped into real estate. My brother stayed in, he did insurance renovation, and I got into the real estate side of it. And then back in around 13, 14, I reactivated my real estate, my broker's license, my construction license, and started building spec homes.
Nice.
And then we just, stayed in the real estate. I love the real estate side of it. And I love the construction side of it. I love building things. I like taking something that when you walk in and the house is just like, oh my Lord, yeah. and then we renovate it and make it something, a very nice, livable area for someone.
So how did you make the, I love that. It's very similar to what happened with me. I'm a little bit, I wasn't in the boom. I was like 18, I think. So for me, it was, I didn't really I didn't really get to see too much of that. Obviously you heard about it, whatnot, but I wasn't old enough to buy a house, or I didn't have the means to do so. And so I really didn't catch thank God, right? I wasn't really too, I probably would have been over leveraged.
Good and bad. Yeah.
I would have been over leveraged and probably would have sunk the ship. Were you able to make it through that successfully? I mean, being a spec builder, it seems like you might've had your neck out there a little bit with someone. Were you like doing hard money at the time? What were you doing?
We were, at the time, well, we were building for investors.
Okay, so you didn't really have any.
Yeah,
risk.
we were doing basically for investors is who we were building homes for, and we would build one every now and then ourselves, but most of the homes that we were doing at the time were different investors. Um, and that just when home sales come to the end, there was no, we tried to start doing remodeling in the construction side of it, but the problem was nobody could get loans. They could
Sure.
not get, did not have the money to renovate a house.
Right.
And so that's when I changed gears myself. I said, we totally have to do something else, because building and construction side of it is not going to work. I have to have something else. So jumped into the real estate. And
With the investment, like, was it fix and flips you were doing mainly, or?
Well, when I'm saying investments, what I'm trying to get at is, at the time, you weren't going to build new homes because the new homes were not selling.
Yeah, weren't selling.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no transaction.
So a lot of people came to us and they were, well, I want my house renovated.
Got it.
Okay, kitchen,
Understood.
got the kitchen, got the bathroom, whatever. But the problem we were finding was, I give them a quote on it, and come to find out, they couldn't get any money. They couldn't get a loan. Nobody, the banks was not lending on anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I've said it was time to change gears. And my brother went a different route. He liked the insurance renovation part of it. I wasn't crazy about that, because I didn't like renovating homes with people that was living in. I like a blank slate that I can go in and do what I want to.
Way less headache that way.
Yeah,
when you got to change a faucet out because it's 2 tenths off, or you got the paint color, it wasn't exactly what they thought it was.
Well, more so, I would say, it takes longer to do a renovation than it does to build something brand new. And you have the client, they're living in the home. There's dust every day. Somebody may not show up, a sub may not show up, and they're on the phone. Hey, why is there not anybody working here? And so it's just, it was just easier for me to take a vacant home and renovate that home. Now, when I started doing the spec homes, I kind of went over and started building custom homes at the same time also. And I love building the custom homes. And obviously, they're getting loans, so you're running on their money. You're not having to pull money out of your pocket to do the investments that way.
Right.
That part of it. And I built custom homes up till the time COVID set in, and then it was just a nightmare. Couldn't get any materials, couldn't get anybody on the sites. So I kind of got out of that, and then I got back into more buying and flipping, and then doing what we call BRRRRs, where you buy a house, renovate it, and rent it out, and then repeat again.
Absolutely. Yeah, BRRRRs are that's a great strategy too for long term, especially if you're a younger guy and you want to kind of build your portfolio. BRRRR is phenomenal. If you don't know what BRRRR is, you should definitely look into it.
Yep.
But so it seems like you were able to pivot quickly. Like, so that's what I'm hearing is that you had 2000 and you transitioned to something that worked, and you're kind of in the same genre, but you're looking at different areas and going, okay, well, this is where we should move. When do you kind of make that decision? And is it easy for you to transition from, let's say, whenever you're doing spec builds and you transitioned over to the kind of the construction side and renovation side? Like, obviously we know why you made that transition, but was it an easy one? Was it just kind of jumped out and jumped in, or
the market conditions? You just have to look and see what's going on in the market and be able to, and I guess I learned that from all the years that I ran we had the auto parts stores. Over the years, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves, because you had the roses, the discounts come in. So you had competition coming in and eating up certain parts of your area, where you were selling a ton of this, and the next thing you know, your sales are going down here. So
Sure.
I come over here, we started selling paint, we started doing hydraulic hoses. So we were pivoting around to still be able to be successful
Sure.
and supply our customers. It's just we had to do it a different way.
Understood.
And I think that helped me in the world of in the real estate and the building, of what to do and what not to do.
Fair enough. So when I was so probably what you don't know is about me is I was in the cell phone business. I worked a couple of jobs. I'm the worst employee in the world. Been fired from every job I ever worked. I'm not kidding, every single one. and I was really, what I noticed was I was good in sales. So like when I got into cell phone business, well, I did home security installations, right? And then they ran out of leads for my area. They tried to send me like 4 hours away, and I was just like, this ain't worth it for me. We transitioned. I started selling cell phones when I was like 21. and college was not a thing, right? I didn't even finish high school, quite frankly. But I I can't. I have a hard time learning things that I don't want to learn. Like if it's not, if I know I'm not going to use it in the future,
Right.
I'm just not interested. I can't mentally get through that. And so school wasn't a thing. So we got out of that. And so, anyways, we got into sales, and I started when we were in when we were in the installation. What they would do is they would compensate us for our additional sales. So they get us in. They would pay us a 25% commission of the total sale price of whatever we sold. Smoke communicator. If we upgraded their panels, or we did whatever upgrades they had available for us. And there was 8 installers in the state of Florida. I was making more in commission than all 8 combined. And at that moment, I realized I should probably focus on the sales thing a little bit because I've been pretty successful at it. So I transitioned over to cell phones, and I started selling out of the mall on a kiosk, right? And that's a different world, right? That's a different world because you're basically trying to stop people who are looking for some clothes or a pair of shoes.
They're not
or
there specifically
No,
for that item.
100%. And so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ducking behind the kiosk and telling them that I saw them in church, and all this other stuff. I mean, I would stop somebody. I would just randomly be like, I would look at them and do this, and I would do that, and they would look at me and go, and I'd be like, Mount Zion? You go to Mount Zion? Anyways, long story short, you had all the tricks of the trade, right? And so it was kind of cool because you learned how to transition somebody and start them from scratch where they literally had no interest in a cell phone. Their cell phone works perfectly fine.
Right.
And you educate them on that. And all of a sudden now they're buying a phone from you. And that was a great learning experience for me. Left that job, went into the cellular industry, opened up a cell phone store in the back of a barber shop, believe it or not. Transition, opened up one. We had like 7 or 8 at one point. We sold off a few, opened a few more. But we had to pivot. I did that for almost 10 years, and we were successful. We were as successful as we were going to be. And it was extremely difficult for me to pivot from that. And the reason I asked you was because when COVID hit, retail kind of died. Brick and mortars died. Most everything went online, and
Yep.
I saw the writing on the wall. And it's like, you build this for 10 years, like your baby. You build this for so long. This is what you're known for. How are you going to transition out of that? Not only how are you going to transition out of that, but how are you going to transition into something that's not going to be affected by AI? How do you make that decision long term about, hey, how much money do I really want to make? What is my life going to look like? What kind of life balance, right? I have children, I have a family, and so how do you dictate? Okay, I don't want to be in something 80 hours, 85 hours a week, and then for the next 5 years or 20 years to make this much money. It's what is going to be, I think, number one, where are there industry holes, right? And it took me like 6 months to sort through this. I had another business that I developed a streaming service. We sold that, and that was really successful. Biden signed a bill that essentially made what I was doing borderline illegal, and I don't do that. I don't mess with that. So we kind of got rid of that, and then I made the pivot over to construction because I've always been interested in construction, and also it seems to me like the people who are actually business people in construction are extremely successful. What I noticed is that there's a lot of blue collar workers that get in, do management, and they get a foreman job, and then they get their license, and they don't really know anything about business. They know how to sling a hammer.
Right.
They know how to sling a hammer, but they don't really know business. And there's protections for those people because basically you have to have 4 years of management experience in order to get your license and all this other stuff. And so they kind of have the market. They really kind of, there's a barrier to entry that's really difficult for a business person to want to get in, because if you're a successful business person, why would you do 4 years of management in a construction business whenever you're going to make $80,000 a year? But if you're successful in business, obviously you'll make significantly more. So we got through that, did some spec builds. So I still do some to this day. Did some fix and flips. So very similar to what you're doing. I still have some going right now. But what we found was I got my building contractor's license and I got my roofing license. And when I got into roofing, what I realized is that the ceiling is so high, the amount of quality in the roofing business, and I'm not taking shots at anybody, but the reality is that the amount of quality is just not there. There's a lot of roofers. There's a ton of them. A lot of them that are happy just making a couple $100,000 a year and just doing that. But we saw I think the scalability was because it's very duplicable. A roof is a roof. You have the sheathing, you have the underlayment, you have the sheathing,
Right.
or the metal, or the whatever that surface is, and then you can just duplicate it over and over. Permits are fast. The project is fast, so you're turning them quickly. It was similar to retail in a way where it's very similar to retail sales. Whereas big construction is a completely different animal.
Yeah.
Right. Being a building contractor, we could have gotten to the commercial side and done that, but you're on a project for a year and a half. The swings are massive. It's a completely different world. I know the retail space. I know quick turn and burn. I know marketing. I know those. And so, plus the other thing we had to consider was, not to get too deep, but AI and robotics. What industry can we get into 4 or 5 years ago when we made this decision? What industry can we get into that's not going to be affected by that? Because the reality is AI and robotics. We just had a conversation about AI when we jumped in.
Yep.
And that is taking over quickly, and it's exponential growth. So what we've seen the growth over the last year is going to be exponentially more from this year to next year. And so we're trying to implement AI, which you're smart for that. It's amazing. But anyways, I love that. And I love the fact that you're able to pivot, because that was very difficult for me. And I don't think people understand, when you've been doing something so long, you've been doing 8, 9 years, it's difficult to kind of make that change. But anyways, all that being said, how is it that you're able to find, you have children, I'm assuming? I don't know, actually.
Yes, I have 3 girls. Yes.
3 girls. When you were making this transition, or whenever you were in the auto parts business, and one of the things I struggle with is, how do you find like that balance between, family life and business life and making a living? And, maybe your kids had after school things and you're trying to figure all that out.
When I was in the parts business, it was the problem I had in the parts business was I worked in the parts business. I didn't run the parts business. And it took me a long time. It actually, after I got out of the parts business and started getting into construction, I started realizing and reading books, more books, about how to run your business and not you let your business run you. And that was one thing I had in the parts business. I didn't realize that I could have went a little bit step further and had people doing my job. Yep. And relinquishing responsibility is a very, very difficult thing.
100%.
It's a real hard thing. And now I'm at a point where I'm turning things over to other individuals. For example, in my real estate, I have on my transactions, I have a transaction coordinator out of the Philippines, and she's took a huge load off of me. I'm not writing contracts. I'm not scheduling. She's handling all that for me. I'm meeting, shaking hands. I'm doing what needs to be done there to make that business grow. And I've got a 1-year plan that I'm working on, and hopefully in about a year I'll have about 4 or 5 VAs doing a lot of daily tasks that will help me get out of that part, that I can run the business and not be in the business.
I love that. So we have 5 or 6 VAs that we utilize. And the cool thing is, once you have one good one, she can train the rest.
Yes.
And then she can also manage those and delegate the roles to those. But it's interesting what you just said, is delegating essentially is if you want to scale a business, you have to have systems in order to delegate.
Absolutely.
And that is the part of scalability I think that most people miss, and they're missing in the roofing industry a lot. And not just the roofing industry, it's all industries. But if you want to scale a business, it has to be duplicable, and you have to have systems in place where your people, your staff, the people who help you go out and fight and win and go to war with, they understand what their job role is, and they understand how to get there. And you have checklists and things in place, so that way it helps them, protects them, and also guides them to say, hey, this is kind of how we're going to go in this direction. So the idea is that the more things that my systems and my processes can make the decisions for them, the better for them it is, because they can stay within those confines. Now, it's going to cost you jobs. It's going to cost you things, because when they're making those decisions and you say, we got to draw the line somewhere, at the end of the day, that's part of scalability. You can't say yes to everything. At some point, your systems you're going to lose deals, because you're not there to make, well, we could have done this deal, but it doesn't fit within our kind of guidelines and our protocols.
Right.
So in that scenario, you just got to generate more leads, right? Do more volume, and things are going to slip through the cracks, but at least you're delegating. So now it's just push marketing as heavy as you can, overwhelm them with leads. And then in my environment, at least, and now it's okay if things fall through the cracks, because it's like, okay, well, I have 200 or 300 leads that I need to work through. Now, if a referral business comes in, this is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about and what your thought processes are. Because when we get referrals from customers, especially like with you, for example, you called and you say, hey, Nate, I got 2 roofs for you. I want you to knock these out. I look at those a little differently. When a referral comes in from one of our customers, That's like the most amazing thing. That means we're doing our job. And so I kind of pamper those people. I kind of get involved. I oversee those. And I think that's critical, right? If you get that referral business, you send me 5, 6 deals. If I mess up one of your deals, maybe because our relationship, you might go, all right, I can deal with that. It's just one deal. But what if we don't have that relationship? What if it's a person like a real estate agent? Because you know real estate agents, man, when you mess up one deal for them, that's their reputation. Then
Right.
they put their name on the line for you, and you're late on a transaction. Now you're pushing back their closing, and now they're paying fees, and now they have angry moms that are down their throat because you made a mistake on your permitting or you set expectations that weren't realistic.
Right.
That's a massive challenge for us. And so, that's why I think the niche market of real estate, because I understand it, we're able to implement processes that keep us on time, where we can close early. It's one thing to say, I'm going to let you pay at close. It's another thing to say, okay, we're going to do it on time. We're going to do it right. We're going to pass inspection
Right.
and you're going to close on time. It's a completely different challenge. You got to remember this too. We have 30 days. You have roughly on the average deal when you sign a contract, Mike, what are you talking? 30 days?
30 to 40 days.
30 to 40 days.
Yeah.
We got to pull permits. First of all, we got to give you a quote because they're late to the quote process, which my recommendation is call us and get a quote when you list the house.
Absolutely.
That way you know what you're getting into because and even if you don't think there might be a roof, just call us and tell us and just let us give you a quote. It's free for you. You have a baseline. You know it's going to be an aggressive price and a good product. And then you have a baseline to know, okay, it's going to be 13 grand to replace this roof if we have to replace the roof. And then now you're in a place where it's like, okay, we're 40 days in, our first inspection gets, 7, 8 days in, and the inspector says, okay, well, you don't have 5 years of life on this USDA or this VA loan or this UA. And then so FHA loans, they require 5 years of life on the roof or you can't get approved. Well, guess what? Now you're in a bad spot because now you're getting quotes. Now you're trying to figure out what's the cheapest one. And you got 3 weeks, only 3 weeks left to close. So now it's all the pressures on the roofer. Permits, sometimes jurisdictions only take 2 weeks.
Right.
Then we have to schedule, get on the roof and have you finished and then get the final inspections done so you can re-inspect. It's extremely difficult. And so it's a challenge. But my recommendation to all agents is do what Mike's done from the very beginning, which is get the quotes ahead of time, know what you're getting yourself into before and other agents. So that way we'll know we have you on our database. We know what's going on. And that way, whenever you do get that inspector that says, hey, you need a new roof, you call us, we get you instantly going. I can typically have your permit done in 4 to 5 days. And then also private inspector. What do you think about the idea that we use a private inspector over like a jurisdiction inspector?
I use when I was building all new construction homes for individuals, I used all private providers.
Yeah.
They just it was so much simpler. You have the county come out. He does the inspection. He says, this is wrong over here. You need to fix this. So you fix it. You call the county back. The next guy comes out, different inspector. He comes over. He says, well, that looks okay, but you didn't fix this over here.
Exactly.
And so, and it's not that you're trying to get around anything. You want to do everything right, but sometimes they get really nitpicky.
Yep.
And so now I've messed up. I've lost 4 to 5 days of construction time playing around with inspectors. Whereas a private provider, he'll come out. He usually would come out. If it's like an electrical inspection, I would call him and ask him what time you're going to be there. I would have my electrical electrician out there, and then he would do the inspection. If we had something that was missing or wrong, he would generally go back and say, here, fix this, take me a picture of it. I'll check it when it comes back out. I'll go ahead and get you passed.
Yep.
And that's what I loved about that was it wasn't this back and forth deal with the county inspectors or the city inspectors. Not saying they're all bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you do have some that they're going to play games with you.
Yeah. Or they're just incompetent, quite frankly.
Yep. Or you're right.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing.
100%. I've had inspectors that's never done a lick of construction, started 2 weeks ago, asking me about things where it's like nailing patterns. It's like, man, you don't know nailing patterns. You're asking me about a nailing pattern. You're an inspector.
Yep.
You're supposed to be correcting my stuff. So with a private provider, they're usually very competent. Number one. Secondly, you're paying a premium. So that's one of the things I think roofers don't do is they don't use private providers. They don't want that additional expense.
Right.
And so what happens is that now they have the inconsistency of the jurisdiction. They can't guarantee to be on time. because they have an inconsistent jurisdiction.
That's correct.
Each jurisdiction has different requirements. And so with us, it's like we utilize the same private provider that knows our process, that knows how we work, that knows what to look for. They educate us. The other point I wanted to say was if something's wrong, they communicate very clearly. Some of these jurisdictions will give you one little cliff note and you still don't know what the hell's going on.
I was just going to bring that up. You have a county inspector come out, and I'm using county. I'm just saying for
city, county, whatever.
Yeah. And they come out, they do the inspection, and they fail it, and then really don't say what it was failed for. and then you're trying to call him to get a hold of it. What's going on? What do I need to fix? I mean, you got a 5,000 square foot house. What's wrong? I mean, where's it at?
And then you find out it's like it's the most simplest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And exactly right. They don't even put in the notes. And to be fair to them, they're probably overwhelmed, probably understaffed.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And so, but some jurisdictions do a really good job. But that's the issue. You have hundreds of jurisdictions in the state of Florida. We work all over the state of Florida. So we need that consistency to know what we can and can't do, that clear communication, so that way we can get off that roof so that customer can close on time.
Yep.
That's how we can guarantee we close on time. But anyways, so advice for people looking to get in the real estate business in today's world. You've been doing it for a long time. You've seen, I mean, longer than I've been an adult, essentially, and longer than that. Real estate's a little different right now. I would say it's the trend. We were so good for so long. Since 2000, I would say it really started getting good around 2015, 16.
Yes.
Right. And then we were in such a good market. And then all of a sudden COVID happened. And then you had this crazy inflationary scenario. You had free money given out everywhere. And now all of a sudden everybody's upgrading their home, but then the rates go crazy. And now what's happening is you have this world where people aren't transacting because they're going to buy the same house or better. Yeah, they have equity, but their rate is 3.2% and they're moving into a 6% rate. It's going to they're going to pay double the price for slightly better home, even with the equity being transitioned to the new home. So what are your thoughts about kind of what's going to happen in the real estate market? Obviously, if rates go further down, then you'll probably see more transactions, but I think that's natural. But at some point, we got to be realistic. Is it healthy to have 2.5% interest rates till the end of time?
It definitely caused a feeding frenzy. That was for sure. I mean, I was seeing deals, and that's another reason why a lot of real estate agents or people jumped in to be a real estate agent. Really didn't have any experience. They would jump in and they would sell one or two homes, or buddies or whoever they would sell. They'd list it, and next thing you know, they had 10 offers the next morning.
Yep.
And in my opinion, really didn't have to work for it. Just basically just put it on the market and let it go. And the one thing I dealt with the last couple of years was having to basically deal with both sides of the deal, because the other agents, their brokers was not overseeing anything they were doing. They didn't know how to negotiate. They didn't even most a lot of the time even know how to write a correct contract up. And so, unfortunately for their clients, a lot of times we would take advantage of that for my client.
Of course.
I'm not here to represent their client.
100%.
I'm here to represent and get everything I can for my client.
Absolutely.
The other thing, like when I go to a listing, I'm not there just to look at the house and give you a value on it. I'm looking at the house as to what issues are we going to have if we have a finance offer comes in. What kind of problems are we going to have to solve to get that deal through to the closing table? Conditions,
roof.
You got,
rotted wood.
Well, not only that, but you have, I look for the plumbing. A lot of times the plumbing is not, the water heater's not plumbed out correctly. That's going to have to be repaired. I look at electrical panels, make sure they're going to pass inspections. Your older panels, some of them in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, they were insurance won't insure them no more. You got to replace the whole panel box.
Yep.
Because the breakers are faulty. And things like that. I'm looking and giving an example. The one you just put a roof over on Valrico. That was one of the issues I saw up front. The roof was 15 years old, or whatever, fairly decent condition. But I told him, I said, you're going to have to figure on a roof. That's why I called, went ahead, even before I listed the house. I mean, we were getting ready to sign paperwork. I had you come out there and give me a price on the roof,
right?
Because I needed to know how much money are we going to have on the table to negotiate this deal. He did not have the money to pay for a roof,
right?
And that's how I came to you. We ended up negotiating a deal. I knew I was going to have to put a roof on there. Would not pass the wind mitigation and 4-point. So we scheduled it all, and we got the deal done. Fortunately, in time, on time, the way it should have been done.
It closed?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Closed. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we closed it. We got paid for it, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I love that. That's the best part. No, but yeah, and the part I wanted to hit on there, Mike, was the fact that you have the construction background. You know what to look for.
I know what to look for.
So if a client, and by the way, you're solving problems before they become a problem, and that is your job.
I'm trying to stay ahead of everything, because the last thing I want to do is we get a contract and we have a home inspection, and then all of a sudden you got 10 things pop up. And I want the owner to be aware of those things, potential problems that we may have to solve. We don't have to solve them right then at that moment, but I need to let them know we have to budget. We're probably going to have to fix these items in order, if it has anything to do with insurance or an appraisal issue, we're pretty much going to have to fix it. Not so much cosmetic, just those safety or insurance or the appraisal issues is what we're going to have to address.
Yeah, getting ahead of that, that's what a good agent does. I think also with your experience in construction, though, which is unique because it's not typical that real estate agents or realtors have that construction experience.
That's true.
Doesn't mean necessarily that they're not competent enough to make the calls, right?
Right.
Good agents have been around a long time. They know what to look for.
They know what to look for.
Right.
They know the basic issues is going to pop up. Yes.
Sure. So, but a good agent, 100%, is not just, if you have an agent, right, that's kind of like pissing all over themselves, for lack of a better way to say it, when they get your listing and they're just super excited and they don't really say anything and everything's great and everything's beautiful, that might be a red flag for you as a client, right? Because it's like, okay, well, everything is not always perfect. You need to do those inspections. You need to take a look at that roof, because, and also what the most important thing you said, I think, and it's crazy because it's what we see even to this day, a lot of new real estate agents, and I'm not bashing new real estate agents. The best way to go in as a real estate agent, it's new, is go to the other side. They have experience and say, listen, I'm new. I'm ignorant. I don't know what I'm doing. If you see something I'm doing wrong, please let me know so I can fix it. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time. This is where we are. I want you to be ahead of that. What I've seen, and this maybe your experience is different, but you have new real estate agents that's got a little bit of training from wherever their brokerage is, and now they think they're a real legitimate professional and they're a seasoned vet. They come in trying to tell you how you're going to run the transaction, explaining how what you're doing is incorrect, and then essentially causing unnecessary strife and headaches.
I've had that happen before.
And it's completely unnecessary. And you make the transaction very difficult. I think, and by the way, being a licensed realtor, dealing with real estate transactions and dealing with other agents, the ones that really kind of get to me a little bit are the ones that they have clients that are emotional. It's a very large transaction. They're moving their families. They're a lot of times you have a chain close where you have 3 or 4 houses closing simultaneously.
Yes, I've had that quite a bit.
So now you have an emotional wife or husband that is looking at all the stress of their life, on top of the fact that if this falls through, the potential for the buyer to fall through, and now it's a lot of issues. Well, they're relaying that stress to the agent because the agent's the one transacting. And so you have to be essentially a psychologist when you're a licensed real estate agent, because you have to calm them down. Things are not going to go perfect. Very rarely do the transaction just go perfect.
Very rarely. There's a lot of background.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of background going on.
And sometimes you can over communicate to your clients. That's not necessary. Sometimes you can under communicate. So understanding that balance for your client is critical. Understanding the personality of the client as well, what you should and shouldn't tell that client. If you fail an inspection or something happens and the client is, they're the type of client that's going to freak out over that, you're probably better off just getting it dealt with and not communicating with them. So understanding that side of it is critical as well. And I think you do a really good job with that. Not only the way you communicate is a very calm way of communicating. You're confident in the way you approach things. You know, based on your experience, that we're going to get this taken care of. There's nothing to worry about, but I'm just letting you know this is what's happening. So real estate agents, if you're listening, it's important. Communicate to your clients. That's very important. However, communicate with them with a solution. Don't communicate with them with problems. Find the problem, find the solution. Don't just say, here's a problem and that's it. That is the best piece of advice I can give an agent. We dealt with hundreds, thousands of transactions at this point with agents. And that's the one that we see most of the time is the agents aren't communicating correctly to their clients and it's causing unnecessary headaches. Now we can help through that. And we're extremely transparent in how we go about our approach. But the idea is I don't even want you to know what we're doing. I just want to finish it for you on time, communicate when it's going to be done, get my job done, get in final inspection, send you the documents you need so you can close on time. We want to make it where the roof is not a problem. You have plenty of other things to deal with, Mike. Electric panels, the sellers, the buyers, all the emotions that are involved in that, the amount of headaches you have. How do we take that as much as pain and stress off of you as possible? We're not pushing to the end here. And now you're stressed out because everything else finished, but now the roof that you as an agent referred us to, you referred as an agent, you referred this roofer. So that client's looking at you going, hey, you referred this roofer and we're not closing on time. We don't ever want to be in that situation. And so this is why we use a private provider and all those other things we talked about. So how has the construction industry, I know we talked about real estate and construction, but we do a lot of both. How does the construction industry changed since 2000, since you jumped in? I mean, you were doing spec builds and obviously we had the crash, but what have you noticed as far as like homes being built? Obviously we have new codes, but just in general, have you noticed any changes in the real estate or the construction industry, like new people coming in, new ways of doing things that have changed from back then?
Well, I will tell you this. One thing I noticed in the industry was it took several years to get these people trained into doing their job correctly. That was one thing. The only thing that happened during COVID was materials was just, it was horrible to find materials. I mean, I had a couple of houses going and I had to go, we went to like 8 different places to find just the electrical boxes to go in the houses. It was 9 months on a window.
You don't really have any of those issues now, right?
No. I think most everything is straightened out. Wood's come down quite a bit. That was crazy. That was a huge cost. Wood was a really
if you could find it. If you could find it.
If you could even find it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they knew that.
Yes.
And even you know what's interesting about the shingle business, and mostly what we do with shingles, is the shingles always go up. But what I would always notice is the shingles don't go down. Yeah.
The wood is the only thing I think that went up and came back down.
Right.
But everything else is still, and you think about little things like door handles, doors, the frame, a frame door, tile. I mean, little stuff is all going up. And when you combine this and put this into a complete house, I mean, it really raises the price.
Yeah, 10-15%.
Easy.
Yeah. And so where we were able to build pre-COVID, we were able to build a spec home, I would say 1,500 square foot, 1,600 on the roof here. We're talking, you were able to build it for in under 100,000.
I was most of the homes I was building at that time was, 5,000-6,000 square foot under roof.
Sure.
And we were at about $125. Now that was turnkey, permits, impacts, well, septic. And most of my homes were built on acreage, so we did have that.
Sure.
Right now, I would say it's 200 plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
especially for that type of home.
Yeah.
Now, entry level, we're able to kind of build them in the roughly that price range. Granite, but some nice things. Granite, like I have one right now. We're under contract. We built, it's like 1,450 living, in a decent area, and we're like on the entry level side. I love the entry level space because I feel like we can build a house and somebody who's trying to buy something in the mid twos, or because trying to find a house right now is brand new for $250. You know what I mean? We just sold one, $250,000.
Where was that at?
It's in Winter Haven.
Oh, Winter Haven.
Yeah,
okay.
in Winter Haven. Yeah.
And not in the Hillsborough County area. That's not going to happen.
No, but the point is we sold it and it sold instantly. I think we listed at 249. We sold it for 255. It was in a CRA, but in a nice area in the CRA, and it's an up and coming area. And the people who are buying that home, what's exciting is you've helped to build that community,
right,
and improve that community. Give them better comps. You're bringing in new, and it's exciting. I mean, it's probably their first home. Mm-hmm. It's an exciting time. I mean, I remember when I bought my first home, it was extremely stressful and extremely exciting. But all that being said, yeah, I agree with you on the construction side. It's changed in that way. Obviously, I wasn't in it back then, but we dealt with a lot of those headaches you're talking about. But what you said that I really wanted to touch on was experience in construction is critical. And what I mean is for that reason you're talking about. What most people don't realize is if you're hiring Mike Griffin to do the house, to do the construction, what you're really doing is you're trusting in Mike to hire the right people to delegate those tasks.
True.
Your Mike is not doing the drywall. Mike is not laying the roof.
Nope.
You're saying that Mike has the experience and has the conglomerate of subs to be able to handle that task and do it at the level of quality that you're asking for.
Yes.
And the critical thing that you said, and I had to learn this. You first think when you get in, I'm gonna do the cheapest way possible. I'm gonna get the cheapest subs possible. And in reality, it's costing you more money because they're delaying the project because it's not done correctly. They end up wanting to charge you more in the end because it took them longer than they expected, and it cost more materials than they expected because they underbid the job in the first place because they're incompetent and they don't know their pricing, which in construction it's unbelievable. The amount of people who just don't know their price. They don't know their numbers. When we do a roof quote, you got to know your numbers. But go back to the point, Mike Griffin. When you hire him, you're saying you have the 9 years experience, 20 years experience, and you have the subs that are going to do this job. And Mike's guaranteeing and putting his stamp of approval and his license on the line to say that, hey, we're going to do this job properly for you. And that's where you have a lot of the really good contractors around. You're saying that your experience and your skills and the people that you're hiring to do this work in general construction is one thing. In the roofing business, a little different. We actually have W-2 employees as our subs.
Okay.
Or as our roofers. So all of our roofers are W-2 employees. We don't utilize subs. Very rarely we utilize subs. If we need to get something done for a particular client, it's fast, we need it done quickly, then we'll grab a sub that we trust and we know we've dealt with them before. They understand our processes. But also, what do you think about this? So what we've done, and you may not know this, but with our roofing crews, we obviously train them internally. We deal with the same ones, which it allows us to keep the quality of the product the way we want it. It gives us more control. But what we've done too is we've actually, when they do a roof, we have an audit on every roof. The lines, cleanliness, there's like 12 points of the audit. The photos, lots of different things that we do. And we compensate them based on their score on that audit. So we actually give them a bonus to the whole crew if they do it the way and meet the standards and requirements at which we're asking for. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, anytime you give that incentive, it makes a difference. It makes them want to work hard. And I'll go back to another thing. It's like paying your subcontractors.
Sure.
I always paid my subcontractors. If a bill was turned in, everything was inspected, and they turned it in on Friday, they had to check that next Friday.
Yep.
It was paid. I didn't hold them out 30, 40, 60 days. A lot of contractors will do, drag that money out. So when I called them and asked them to come in to do my job,
they were on it.
Johnny be good, they were there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They knew they were going to get paid.
We had that conversation previously, and we changed the way we pay our subs, particularly in new construction. Obviously, we don't have many subs in the roofing business, but we changed the way we did it, and we actually duplicated what you said. I said, you know what, that's a great idea. So now every Friday we cut those checks. It's the next Friday. As long as you have the invoice to us,
yes,
by the Friday before we close, we will have that check paid for you next Friday. That's our rule. And so now if you give it to me on Saturday, well, you're waiting 2 weeks. That's our rule. We have to have a cutoff at some point, right?
You got to have a cutoff at some point.
And so and that's great as too. So what else? There's so much. 6 to 12 months in the real estate market. Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking the rates are going to drop? I mean, obviously we got a lot of changes.
I'm seeing the rates slowly start coming down.
Yeah.
The last 6 months of last year was really bad as far as real estate sales. I think there were so many people on the sidelines anticipating the rates really coming on down. And I think the Feds dropped them twice toward the end. They were saying they were going to do it 4 times. They only did it twice. And some of my sellers that we had the properties on the market, and we were actually undervalued. They needed to sell the property, and we actually dropped the price below what it would appraise at. And I kept telling my sellers, I said, look, it's the market. We got an election year. You got holidays in the middle of all this. I said, but when January, the second week in January opens up, it's going to bust loose.
Mm.
And every one of my customers that I had those houses sitting on the market for 3-4 months, second week in January, we got offers.
Nice.
Boom.
Nice.
And that's and this year my phone has blown up since the second week in January. People's making the realization that if I'm going to buy, this is what I'm going to have to do. This is the interest rate I'm going to have to pay. It's not going to get any better. And I don't know if the rates are going to really drop that much. I mean, when you get into, I think when you get into the fives for an FHA, I think you'll start seeing a lot more feeding frenzy. I think you'll see a lot more people start letting their houses go that has that 3.5% interest rate. I think it'll be low enough then they can say, I can move on to do it. But now the other thing I'll tell you, a lot of the homes that I've been selling in my area, people have been moving out of state.
Leaving Florida.
Leaving Florida.
And what's the reasons for that, you think?
I think jobs, I think insurance, taxes, property taxes have gone through the roof.
That's true.
Insurance is, it's going up quite a bit every year.
Especially on the coast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that has a lot to play into it. I would actually say in the last 2 years, probably 50% of my homes that I've sold, the owners actually moved out of state.
Older people?
No, not necessarily.
So would you think it's maybe that they have so much equity they can just sell their home and then just go buy something cash in another state?
And then that's a big thing. They're going to Georgia, they're going to North Carolina, they're going to Alabama. Now, most of the people I'm selling, that's where they're heading to, and they can go up there and double what they have here in Florida for the money that they have. They could go up there and double.
That's interesting you say that, because what I looked up recently was South Carolina is the fastest growing state in the United States right now. So, and I actually know someone who's moving to South Carolina, ironically enough, in the Clemson area. And so that makes a lot of sense. The climate there is really nice. If you're a golfer, it's the best golfing climate in the world, And so I'm a golfer, obviously. And takeaway. So what's a lesson you've learned in business, being in business so long, even in the auto parts, that you feel like people should know something? I mean, obviously, I didn't prep you for these questions, obviously, before you came in, but it was something I was thinking about, because I've learned a lot from you just in our conversations, things that you aren't necessarily even trying to teach. You're just communicating, this is what we do. And I think that's important to learn from everyone you deal with.
Yep.
So I'm always listening, always wanting to learn. But what's a lesson you think, being in the industry, maybe from real estate, maybe in construction, and saying in business in general, that you think most young entrepreneurs or young business people should know?
Delegate your duties.
Very nice. I agree with you 100%. Delegating, I'm going to say this, delegation is the key to scale. And scale meaning, how do you grow fast and rapidly? How do you grow your business in general?
Yep.
It's one thing when you're micromanaging all your tasks, and I have many friends that are very, very successful that are micromanagers. They don't know how to delegate, because delegate is extremely difficult.
It is.
It requires processes and systems, which people say processes and systems. You have to make sure they're tight and it's constantly evolving. You're always adapting and changing systems, and you have to train that down in order for your team to understand that.
Yep.
And so if you're trying to scale a business, it's impossible to scale without delegating. All I think about all day long is, as a business owner, how can I become more efficient? And efficiency is many different ways, but systems, processes, and then also training. Also, like, for example, a digital training platform. Most people don't even have a training platform. You're 10 years into your business and you have 15 employees and you don't even have a training platform. So now when you hire someone, the hiring and training process is so painful, because there's no standard at which they start. If you have a digital training platform, what happens is, we use Tranual. What happens is that now when we make a change to sales, we don't have to go to every single salesperson individually. We make the change in the platform, then it alerts them. And now they have to go through the training system that we've created,
yes,
which is now done through AI, and it makes it so easy for us. Then they have to take a quiz, and then what happens, and I know you've probably dealt with this before, is the one that I despise from my staff, that really, really irks me, is when they say, I didn't know that. And it's like, I remember exactly where I was standing when I told you this specific thing. And then if you have a training protocol, now you can say, well, you said you didn't know that, but right here under training, well, it's a green check mark right here, which means you took that test, you took that session,
Right.
and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You forgot, but the reality is the accountability is there, and it's saying, okay, you can make those changes rapidly. You can also, what it also does for you, I think, if you're talking about scale and processes and efficiency, is it creates a standard at which they start. For example, every single person that walks in the door when they're getting trained, you know exactly what they know at least.
Yes.
This is at least what you know because you went through this training, so you should know these 53 things.
Right.
So now I don't have to worry about training on those. We can get a little more specific, and that makes the training process a little faster, or a lot faster,
Right.
a lot more efficient. Talking about efficiency and growth. But yeah, delegation is critical. If you want to scale and grow, utilize VAs. You're doing that. Utilize AI, right? Andrew Boscia is a really good friend of mine. He has a podcast, and I don't know, but what we'll do is we'll throw it on the video right now so everybody can see it. Not a podcast. I'm sorry. He has a Zoom every Tuesday, and what's really cool about his Zoom is he's teaching AI and he's learning it together collectively. So there's so many amazing things that's being done. Like for example, phone calls. Our sales teams are going to have their phone calls recorded, and then AI transcribes it. And then based on the input you're looking for, you can input the data in AI and it can rate those sales calls. Instead of having somebody manually doing it or having the customer feel that mistake later on, you can get ahead of it early. These are just the beginning. This is just beginning stages. I don't even do you use ChatGPT?
All the time.
Okay, perfect.
All the time.
So I don't even send an email without ChatGPT unless it's like, thank you.
I mean, we use it for all our property descriptions. A lot of letters. I set goals with it. Time management. I use it for time management. There's just so many different. I haven't even started touching on it. What all it can do and help.
It's getting, it's like marketing. Like I have to outsource marketing, which I hate doing because outsourcing anything, obviously you're not going to get necessarily the results you could do in-house.
Right.
However, there's so much change. Social media has changed dramatically. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. The fact that we're doing these podcasts, it's all part of the marketing strategy now because it's like people need to know. They want to, if we're the key, Mike, in business is transparency. So I asked that question, and I think for me is delegate and be transparent with your people. And if you're transparent, you're not hiding anything. And if you're doing things right, you can be transparent. If you're doing things by the way you're supposed to be doing them, you have nothing to hide. Transparency is critical. And so, all that being said, Andrew Boscia's Zoom, we're gonna put it in the either in the video or in the link, depending on which platform you're watching this on. It's Zoom every Tuesday. I don't know the times, but we'll get it in. I want to thank Mike just for sake of time. Thank you very much, brother. You've been amazing. Seriously, I appreciate your business.
Yeah.
One more thing before we go, and I'm talking about transparency. What is something that I can improve on? I'm not scared of saying that we make mistakes. Every business makes mistakes. But what we like to see is our great customers are going to be honest with us. But what is something that you can see inside of our business and where we can improve?
Honestly, I don't see anything. I mean, I call you up.
Yeah.
I ask for a quote. I get a quote. I tell you, okay, we get the inspections done. I call you up and I say, okay, we're going to have to put a roof on here. Here's where we are in the process. And I will not even call you about putting the roof on. I'll let you know we're getting ready to do the appraisal, but I don't call you back until the appraisal's done. Once I get the appraisal done and the price is agreed on, then I'm letting you know, hey, we're moving forward at this point.
Yeah.
It's pretty well. And then I won't call you to even tell you to put the roof on or pull the permit until I know I have that full approval for that lender. I mean, for that buyer from the lender.
Right.
Now, once I've got that point, then we're getting maybe 10 days out to the closing table.
Yeah.
So that's the time I'm saying, hey, I need to get a roof on.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to stay ahead of it and let you know where the process is during the during the transaction.
And so what we and by the way, what roofing company can get a roof on and guarantee it 10 days from the moment you're trying to close?
I got to tell you, this guy right here, he's been phenomenal. I have a lot of times I'll have a client selling his home, does not have the money to much less do renovations or a roof, you know, and a roof you're talking, you know, $15,000-$20,000 very easily on a average size home. And but this guy will he will pull the permits, he'll get the roof on, and then collect, and then the title company will send out the check to him at the closing. And that's how I get the deal done. I mean, that other than
Appreciate
that, we're not doing the deal, or we're going to have to sell it for cash. Then the owner is going to have to take a huge haircut because now he can't sell it with financing. He's going to have to bring a cash buyer in.
Which is nearly impossible in today's world.
Which, well, you take a nice home, nothing wrong with a home, but it needs a roof on it. You know, you don't want to take that kind of haircut.
100%.
That now, if the home is distressed and there's a lot of issues with it, yeah, you're gonna bring a cash buyer in.
You know, the one thing I want, and I thank you very much for saying that. And if there's ever anything that we can improve on, please feel free to reach out. I mean, there's tons of things I know we can improve on, but I also see my business every day. And so the idea is, how can we become 0.5% better every day, 0.5% more efficient every day? And we chip away at it, and we make mistakes, and then we correct our mistakes. We put a, you know, believe it or not, this was so stupid, and it was 100% my fault. I did not put the systems in place, and I did not protect my staff, and we put the wrong color roof on a house. It was a very simple mistake. There's two colors that are almost identical with this almost the same exact name. He went through it quickly, saw the wrong color, ordered the wrong color, installed it, and by the time we were at the end, we offered to paint the house to match. They were selling the house anyways.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, we want the right color. We tore it back off, replaced it obviously, but we make mistakes all the time. The thing is that if you make a mistake, are you going to fix it? Like, I can tell you, the moment we implemented that, once that happened, I knew instantly that was my fault. I knew instantly that was something that I made a mistake on, because ultimately at the end of the day, Mike, it's art. We make the mistakes. We put the people in positions to do it.
You say that was one thing I did run across. When you go out and give a quote, most of the time you would give a quote on the color of the roof that's on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally will suggest either going with weatherwood or something more of a neutral color,
black shadow,
a gray,
right,
or a black, or, you know, whatever color you want to paint the house.
Especially if you're selling the home.
And the only thing I would say is double verify when we get ready to sign that contract the color of the roof that's going to go on there.
Yeah. So what we do is we actually have a sales form. So we get the initial colors, and then we call the buyer themselves, or whoever it is that's making the selection for the color.
Yeah.
And we have a form that essentially has gate codes, colors, metal colors, everything. And we call that customer and go through that process with the customer to verify before we even pull the permit that this is the color you want. And so you're saying before we even install it, we want to verify before we do the delivery. Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So
when you do the quote, you're just, you know, if the house is, if the roof is a light gray, and the new owner may, and a lot of times we're going to confirm with the new owner, what color roof do you want? You know, because it's going to be his house.
Sure.
So we verify that. I get that in writing from him. And then I say, this is the color that we're going to use.
Got it. Yeah. So what we've done now is we've implemented the color in the contract. So we made recent changes to our contracts, you know, because we have issues getting paid sometimes, and we want some protections, because it's like it's a wild, wild west. I mean, they know they don't have to pay. They'll take them 6-8 weeks to pay you, which in some situations we're fine with. They just communicate. However, yeah, so we actually put the colors in there, but I think it'd be a good idea for the project manager who does the ordering to actually call the customer and verify that this is the color.
I think that would be a great
I like
idea.
it. That's a double check, because we've already had that issue once and done it. But yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the vote of confidence in us. I can tell you one thing's for sure: we'll be better tomorrow than we are today. We're not going to get worse. As long as I'm running this business, 1,000%, we're going to be better in 6 months from now. And that's what I tell my staff all the time: is I require you guys. The only requirement I have for them is just be a better person, be a better version of yourself, progress in your life, be a better husband, be a better wife, be a better father, be a better friend, be a better employee, be a better associate, be a better manager. Everything that you do, son, like, look at every aspect of your life and improve, because if you're improving in those aspects, it's going to help us to improve internally. Not to mention, it's going to help you improve in your life, which is going to give you better balance. It's going to give you more better level head.
Yep.
And then also it's going to help your communication with the client. because you're going to come off as more competent, more confident because of who you become and how you progressed in life. And also, I think just being a better person is just better for everyone individually. We go through, this is a pretty much, we'll talk about this last point and we'll kind of finish up. But this is something I try to talk to everybody about, Mike, is like, you have certain people that you look back 10 years ago and you go, man, you're doing the same exact thing you were doing 20 years ago. You're the same person you were 10 years ago. I think that's like the worst possible thing you could do, is waste your life away and not get better. When people say you've changed, to me, that's a good thing.
That's what a lot of people are afraid of, is change. They just absolutely fear changing their routine. And as a business owner, you have to constantly change.
I agree. As a person, I think you have to be adapting and improving. When I left cellular and went into roofing, a massive different jump. There's people that told me, what do you know about roofing? What do you know about? I was like, well, what do you know about anything you've ever done? Right? You have to start at some point. My family's been in roofing my whole life. My mom's first husband was a foreman for a roofing company, and he raised me up until the time I was in my teens. And so my uncles have been in roofing. Like, most of my family friends are still in the roofing industry for the last 40 years. So I've been around roofing my entire life. I roofed a roof when I was 16 years old. I actually was the laborer on the job. And we just, ironically enough, replaced that roof last year for the first time. So that was pretty cool.
Were you up there doing it that time?
No. The things have changed. My knees, the way my knees, But it was amazing though. It was a really cool story to see that. But yeah, I think continuously progressing, continuously getting better. That's what it's all about. And I think genuinely want you to know I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your business. I assure you that if you have something that comes our way, we'll take care of you. If you have any issues, please feel free to reach out with any clients. But especially when you bring it to us, I always tell my staff, Terry, Todd, Ken, whoever's dealing with it, make sure we do everything possible to take care of Mike, no matter what it is. If you have any issues, any questions, bring it to me. And you have my cell. You can call me anytime. And that goes with any other customer we deal with. But especially with our clients who have bring us multiple. I mean, you got to think, as you grow in scale, I'm not dealing with every client all the time anymore.
Right.
I just can't. There's no way for me to do it. But we make sure that the clients who've sent us business, who've been taking care of us from the beginning, I make sure I'm involved in that, because I do not want any issues, because we're not perfect, right? And so as we continue to improve, it's like, let's make sure 1,000% these clients have been taken care of. They get my touch on it. They know that I'm involved. And I think that gives you confidence in knowing that Nate's keeping an eye on this. It's not just some other guy.
It's a burden off my shoulder.
Sure.
That's something it's in your hands. I'm not really worried about it. I can deal with everything else. That one's out of my hair right now.
There's no price to put on that. Last thing, I promise you, this is the last thing, but this is extremely important. And I'd love your input on this. Pricing, right? A lot of customers, and here's our business model. We want to give you the best price, but for the best product.
Yes.
I'm not going to put junk on your roof, because I put my name on that product. My name is the company. And so we use, in my opinion, the best product on the market. There are some other good products. Owens Corning's a great product. We'll use Atlas Pinnacle Prestine. I think it's the best thing on the market. That's my opinion. People are going to disagree, agree, but you can't argue that it is one of the best for sure. Yeah. Top 3, right? I think it's the best. It's the most expensive. It's the most expensive on the market. So are we good? Okay. It's the most expensive on the market, but here's the thing. When we give you a price, and I'm sure you've probably shopped us once or twice, our prices are pretty aggressive. Like, we're not trying to get over on you.
I've kept you honest.
Yeah. And by the way, you should. Absolutely. And I tell my staff that all the time. We don't, and my model is pretty simple. Even though we know we can charge certain customers more based on the circumstances, we don't. And the reason for that is because we want that long-term business. If you go for example, if you're getting a roof and it's $15,000, your neighbor has the same exact house and he gets his roof done next, because it's likely that's what's going to happen.
Right.
And he says he paid 13. Well, guess what? Now you feel like you got shafted for $2,000. What we want to do is, and the roofing industry is unique because you have different quality shingles. You got to compare apples to apples. So it's not just about price.
Right.
But we want to give you an aggressive price up front that we know we're profitable and we know we're sustainable. We can service your roof 10 years from now when you need it, if you need it. And also we can close on time. So going back to price, when you're selling a home, your client's selling a house. What we've noticed is all they care about is price. They don't, because it's not their roof. It's the buyer's roof now. And so they're thinking, I don't care what kind of shingle goes on this roof. I don't care what kind of product goes on this roof. I just want it to be as cheap as possible to pass inspection to get these people to buy the roof. And the buyers, unbeknownst to them, don't know there's different qualities in roof. There's different qualities. And so with us, it's you're taking care of your buyer as a seller. You're going to get a very aggressive price point. If there's a $300 or $400 difference, what you don't seem to understand is we specialize in real estate transactions. That is what we do. That is our niche.
Oh, I totally understand that. I mean, you're putting your neck out there.
Sure.
You may have, and the deal may fall through, like the one deal we had. It may fall through. So you're sitting on $18,000,
Right.
and you're sitting on that another 45, 60 days
Yep.
out there.
Yep.
So you're putting, you've got a lot of skin in the game.
Sure.
So that's why, I and there's not everybody that does what you do.
Right.
I mean, for me to be able to close a deal and put a roof on there and that money collected at the closing, how many roofers are you going to find out there that's going to do that for you?
100%. They don't understand it. They don't understand it. And and because it's unique, we're in real estate, and as a realtor, we understand that business, and that's our niche. But back to the pricing point is, as a customer, you have to understand, if we're $500 or $600 higher than the next guy, what happens when you go with another roofer who's willing to do this, who doesn't specialize in this, and is not going to, and they don't have the history of doing it, or you don't have that confidence that your real estate agent knows that they can do it. Now they push your closing back. A lot of times, pushing closing backs isn't free. A lot of times you have to pay extension fees. You have to pay to keep that rate down.
That $500 difference, let's just say there is a $500 difference, could end up being thousands of dollars difference because we didn't close on time.
Or the deal falls through.
Or the deal falls through.
Absolutely. And people don't think about that. People don't think about it. And so the most important thing is utilize the right people. Look at our Google reviews. They're mostly real estate agents that are literally giving us 5 stars saying, these guys close on time. These guys are doing it right. And we take great pride in that. We're going to make mistakes 100%. We're not perfect. However, make sure you're choosing a roofer, I think, that specializes in real estate transactions. We found a niche in the market. We love what we do. It's very difficult. It requires a lot of back-end work to get it done on time, but we're giving you essentially a cash price and floating the entire project to the end. So we're aggressive, even if you were paying cash, much less if you're doing an escrow at the end. Now, our pricing structure may change in the future a little bit. I don't want to get too far into that, but it's not going to change dramatically. We have to price in the fact that our AR is really high because our accounts receivable is really high because of the fact that these deals fall through, not because of us, but because of whatever other reasons we've had in the past. And now we're sitting on a brand new roof, and we're not going to that customer saying, hey, Mr. Customer, you need to pay us right now, or we're going to put a lien on your property. Now you can't close your house. Now you got to pay us.
Right.
We have the right to do that, but we understand. You communicate with us. They communicate with us. We're not going to do that to you. We want you to close your house. We want to get paid. We want you to be happy. And we want that real estate agent, which is the real relationship that we have. We want that agent to come back to us and say, we know they're going to take care of us. We're going to be good. But I want to tell you, Mike, having an agent that's competent is critical to the sale of your home. Point blank. If your agent's not competent, you are going to have an absolute mess on your hands. If you have a brand new agent, I'm not talking about brand new agents. Some of them are great, but you're taking a risk. I think if you have one of the sides have to be competent. You can't have 2 brand new agents because it's going to be a disaster. Unless they have a good broker and some other things, you're just taking a risk. The new thing for real estate agents is, I'm going to do it for $1,000. I'm going to list your home for $1,000, and I'm going to put it on MLS, and we're going to sell it. Well, that's fine and great. But the problem is that when you have an agent who's willing to do that, it's likely because they may not have the experience, and they're doing what they have to do based on price in order to get the listing because they don't have the value to do it.
I just wait for those to expire and then go pick them up.
He picks them up because they don't sell. Listen, guys, I'm not taking shots at all real estate agents. I'm just being honest. This is what we're looking at. And you just got to be careful. I'm sure there's great real estate agents out there that are doing this new volume model where they're just listing homes and they're super competent. I've actually talked to my real estate friends about that and said, if you go to that model and you're competent and you're able to scale that, you're going to grow and really blow up, assuming you can take care of your clients. Now, I don't know what that price looks like. I'm not in that business anymore. But assuming you have a price that's aggressive and you can still make a profit and you can take care and manage those clients like you would like. Imagine, Mike, if you had 30 clients, right? Right now, you probably have, what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, well, it's starting to pick up. But COVID, 30 to 40 clients at one time after close. you couldn't keep a property in stock.
Exactly. But in that scenario, it was pretty easy for you. But you can't properly service a client if you have 40 or 50 listings.
There's no
as
way.
one person.
There's no way.
And so that's why I think you have to understand, if you're doing an $800 listing, that you're going to have to really, in order to make a living, you need 20 or 30 clients on listings in order to make a living.
$800, I'm going to spend that 3 or 4 days in advertising.
Just in marketing the property.
Just marketing the property.
And by the way, when you're marketing that property, you're getting that customer potentially more money.
Yes, I am.
So their cost, they're essentially taking a lower price in order to be more aggressive with the $800 price point. So you're saving that money or losing that money one way or the other.
Yep.
You're either going to use a good, competent real estate agent that's going to charge you a fair rate, or you're going to use an agent that necessarily, maybe it's fair rate for them, you know what I mean, for $800.
And the other thing is, I'm here to put as much money in your pocket as I can.
Bingo.
Okay. I'm not here to take the first deal and say, hey, let's run with it and get the thing closed so I can get paid.
Yeah.
Many times I've told clients this is not the best deal. Let's hold up. I think I can get more money out of it, or negotiation wise. I go back and I try to negotiate a lot of deals, and I get quite a bit of money more. I talk to the lenders. I talk to the other agents. I find out everything I can before I go back to my client and say, here's the skinny on everything that's going on, and what do you want to do? And here's my suggestion that we should do.
Mike is a great real estate agent. He understands construction. He can manage the entire process for you. He has the relationships to get things done that need to be done timely. He will check on it ahead of time. Mike is phenomenal. We've dealt with numerous transactions with Mike. They've all gone smooth, except for there was one issue, but it wasn't had anything to do with Mike. It was completely a lender issue. And you know what's funny about that? Mike, even though that deal was not a good deal, didn't go through, Mike got his client compensated $10,000 because it was a bad transaction. That is what Mike did. Another agent potentially would have got a $1,000 escrow. Mike had the wherewithal and the foresight to go, we need a larger escrow because I don't trust this deal. Communicated that to his client, got his client $10,000 in free money that caught headaches, but was able to essentially almost pay for the entire roof transaction, $10,000 direct to the client, because of the headaches that the client dealt with. And that's proper compensation, and that's a competent real estate agent. So I would highly recommend utilizing Mike. If you're in the Hillsborough area, where else do you go, Mike?
Hillsborough, Pasco, Polk.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said before, guys, Mike is great. Mike's incredible. If you need a good agent, you're in that area, call Mike, give him a shot. And I guarantee you, I can tell you in my transactions and my experience with Mike out of real estate, in real estate, it's always been positive. So I appreciate you, Mike. Thank you very much for coming on with us.
Absolutely, man. It's been a great time.
I learned a lot from you. I've been learning a lot from you since we first been doing business, and hopefully we can continue to do business together and we can take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to our future.
Yeah, it's going to be great, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, sir.